Hi, my name is Jennifer. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about my favourite books of 2024. So these are the best books that I read in 2024. That doesn't mean that they were necessarily published in 2024. I think maybe one or two of them were. This is a top 19, which I know is a random number, but I had five stars last year, and then I had 14 4.5 stars, and I didn't want to leave any of these books out because I love them all. I have put these in an order, but I did this like a week or two ago, and even looking at the order now, I'm like, would I change that order around? So just know that I love all these books. Okay, at number 19 is Hangman by Maya Binyam. This was longlisted for the Women's Prize in 2024. It's quite an unusual novel. It follows an unnamed narrator who has been given a plane ticket, and he has to make the journey back to his home country. The countries aren't named, but we assume he is travelling from the US, where he has lived for 20 odd years, to his home country, which again we assume is somewhere in Africa. And he doesn't really understand what's going on. As he goes along his journey, he has these interactions with different people that he meets as he's trying to piece things together. I thought it was a really fascinating reflection on the nature of migration and belonging and identity, and it was also in many ways quite an unexpected read, which I really enjoyed. At number 18 is The BlackSpectacles by John Dixon Carr. This is a Golden Age crime novel. In this one we have some sweets have been poisoned in a sweet shop, and seemingly that poisoning has happened whilst a whole load of people were in the shop, but no one saw it happen. And we also have a death that takes place like on a stage, again with an audience of people, but again no one saw it happen. I love John Dixon Carr. He is the master of the locked room and sort of impossible puzzle mysteries, and I thought this one was excellent. At number 17 is Bad Dolls by Rachel Harrison. So this is a very short book. It's a collection of 4 short stories. They are horror stories. They are brilliant horror stories within themselves. I really like Rachel Harrison's writing, but as well, she sort of looks at contemporary issues within her horror stories. And Bad Dolls I just thought was really excellent. At number 16 we have more horror. This is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. This was so much fun. This is about a woman whose parents have died, and her brother are going to clear out their parents' home, and their mother was a puppeteer, so in the house there are all these old puppets and dolls that their mother used for her shows and stuff, and some of those puppets are a little bit creepy. I love this because there was some great horror set pieces in the book, but as well it really like made me feel some stuff. So it wasn't just sort of like a surface level horror novel. There was some deeper stuff going on. I thought it was hugely enjoyable. At number 15 is Pet by Catherine Chidgey. This is about a 12-year-old girl who becomes obsessed with her new school teacher. There is a series of thefts that then happens within the classroom, which throws suspicion amongst the class, and the teacher herself is really quite an unlikable character in terms of how she treats the children, how she singles some of them out over others and sort of like manipulates them in certain ways. But I thought this was a really great story of obsession. At number 14 is My Darling Dreadful Thing by Johanna van Veen. This is a very gothic novel about a young girl and her mother who run these seances as a scam to scam money out of people. People who have lost loved ones will come along and they will pretend to be able to talk to the dead. Now this girl does actually have like a spirit companion who she can see and who she can communicate with. they are visited one day by this widowed woman who comes to see them, and the young girl ends up going to live with this woman to work for her. And then interspersed within the narrative, we get these transcripts of doctors' interviews with a patient, and which is told like in the future. So we know we are building up to something terrible happening, which is leading to these transcripts that we are reading throughout the book. I thought it was super gothic and really, really good. At number 13 is The Murder of My Aunt by Richard Hull. This is another Golden Age crime novel. This one, unusually for Golden Age stuff, is told in the first person from the point of view of this young man who lives with his Aunt Mildred in a Welsh town, and he hates living there. He really doesn't want to live there. He doesn't like his aunt. He's like stuck there because of the nature of his inheritance means he has to live with her, and we know from the start, decides that he would like to do away with his aunt. I thought this was a really great crime novel, quite unusual and like a lot of fun as well. Really, really enjoyable. Number 12 is The Pisces by Melissa Broder. This is a little bit of an odd novel. It's about a woman who has recently broken up with her boyfriend, and to have time to sort of get over that, she goes to stay at her sister's beach house. And while she's there, she encounters a merman, and they have this relationship. And obviously it's like, it is a little bit weird, but I thought it was really well written. The nature of the relationship, I thought it was so well done and so believable, although, you know, on one level not believable, but also really believable. And I thought it looked at things in a really interesting and fresh way. Very, very good. At number 11 is Private Rights by Julia Armfield. I love Julia Armfield's writing so much. So Private Rights is sort of a King Lear inspired novel. Not that you need to know about King Lear. I don't really know about King Lear. But we follow three sisters whose estranged father has died, and so they have to sort of clear out his house. And throughout that, they are like discovering different things about their family that they didn't know about, and it's set against this backdrop of a world which is becoming increasingly flooded. So we have this sort of almost apocalyptic background going on, but then sort of the central story about this family. So it's set against this sort of like apocalyptic backdrop. We are you know, you can sense that we are nearing this sort of, the world has changed and it is getting increasingly worse, and that's sort of like in the background, and then we are focusing on this family and on these three women, and I thought it was incredible. I think Julia Armfield is a brilliant writer. Yeah. At number 10 is Bor Gay Werewolf by Tony Santarella. So this is a horror novel, and we follow Brian, who is a young man who works in a cafe or a bar, and he has this group of friends, and he has a fairly like humdrum existence, but he is keeping a big secret because he is a werewolf. This is a novel it's a horror novel. It's a lot of fun, but it really looks at aspects of identity and belonging and friendship as well in a really, really interesting way. Because obviously Brian is gay as well, as the title suggests, and I really love what this book was doing. It's like a fun, queer horror novel, and I thought it was really incredible. At number 9 is In at the Deep End by Kate Davis. This is another queer book. This one I listened to on audio. The audio was excellent. So following a young woman who is sort of had bad relationships with men in the past, and one day she meets this woman and they embark on a relationship, and it's quite wild. Sort of this woman sort of introduces her to this whole other like lifestyle. They go to these like wild parties and all kinds is going on, but actually the relationship itself is maybe not quite as good as what it seems to be at first. I thought it was really quite a powerful novel actually, and looked at issues of control in a really, really interesting way. At number 8 is The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. So this is a great novel. So this is about the Lisbon sisters. Well, it's kind of about the Lisbon sisters, who are a group of 5 girls who we know are all going to die by suicide. So the book opens with the suicide of one of them, I think the youngest girl, and we know because the narrative tells us that all of the sisters will die by the end of the book. What's really interesting about this is the narrative voice. So it's told from the perspective of the boys who knew the girls, they were their classmates. So it's told like in the present day when the boys are men, and they are looking back. They romanticised these girls in their life and also in their death. It's very much about the girls through the perception of these boys, through the male gaze, through also other people who knew them in the town they lived in. And you know, we can see from very early on that it's an unreliable narrative. We can see that we're very much getting the boys' perspective, and sort of we hear the boys' thoughts about the girls, and as we go through we get little glimpses of maybe what the girls were really like, and they were just normal girls. But I thought it was just so well done. Really love this one. At number 7 is There by Tommy Orange. So I picked this up because its sequel, Wandering Stars, was listed for the Booker in 2024. So I read There and Wandering Stars as well. And There I thought was just an incredible read. So we are focusing on the build up to a powwow that's going to take place, and so we follow these characters from native communities who are all going to be attending this powwow. They all sort of are interlinked in some way, like there might be different family members or friends or so on, and we focus on I think there's like 12 in total, and we have like a different one for each chapter as we build up, and it's interspersed with sort of aspects of native history. I honestly learnt a lot from it because it's just not something I knew very much about. I thought it was so well written. I thought the sort of nuanced way that it looked at issues of identity and belonging was incredible, and it was a really quite a gripping plot as well. A great read. At number 6, we have some romance. So this is kind of a placeholder for a series of books. So the actual book that I'm putting in number 6 is Iris Kelly Doesn't Date by Ashley Herring Blake. I mean, what is this? She's got a romance book in her top 10. What is going on? So this is a series of 3 books. The first one is called Delilah Green Doesn't Care. The second one is Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail, and then Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. I did read Iris Kelly first, even though it's the third one, and I don't know if I like it more because it was the first one I read, or I do really like the relationship in Iris Kelly. All 3 books I gave 4.5 stars. This is like unheard of. So it is a queer romance series, and we follow a group of friends, 3 friends, and basically each of the books focuses on one of them. So in Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, we focus on Iris, who is not really into commitment. She meets someone, has a bit of a fling with her, and then they end up meeting up again in other circumstances. And then for various reasons, they start fake dating, which, I mean, I don't read a lot of romance. I don't feel like fake dating would be a trope I would buy into really, but despite that, I really, really liked the two main characters in this book and the relationship between them. I just thought it was so well done. This series is just so good. I don't think I've ever really liked romance before, but I thought this series was incredible. We are now into the top 5. So these 5 books all got 5 stars from me. In at number 5 is The Seat of the Scornful by John Dixon Carr. So I believe this has also been published as Death Turns the Tables, which might be a title I prefer actually. So this is another Golden Age murder mystery. Unusually for John Dixon Carr, this one does not contain a locked room mystery or an impossible puzzle. So it's interesting that this one is the one that made it into my top 5. But I believe a lot of people agree that this is one of John Dixon Carr's best books. So it's not just me that thinks it's great. So in this one, we have a really interesting setup. So we have this judge, and his daughter is intent on marrying her boyfriend, but the judge does not deem him to be really a suitable partner, and he thinks she should instead get together with some other much more respectable man. And the book opens with the judge in his beach house, and he is found in a room in the house with a gun. He's sitting there, there's a gun on the floor, and the murdered body of his daughter's love interest. But the judge says that he didn't kill him. So we have this really interesting setup, as in how did this man end up in the house? What was he doing there? Did the judge kill him? But if he did, why would he just sit there? Why would he be like that? And the judge himself is kind of acting a bit weird. So if it wasn't him, who was it? I just thought it was really well plotted, a really quite a page turner. I was completely engaged. I just loved it. I thought it was a really great murder mystery. At number 4 is Falling Animals by Sheila Armstrong. This is a wonderful book. It's set on the coast of Ireland, and it opens up with a man's body being found on the coast, and the police don't know who he is, and then we follow the perspective of different people who live in this small town. It's not a murder mystery or anything like that, but we follow the different people. It's quite, I'd say, a deceptively quiet book. It's beautifully written but not overwritten, and we look at the different sort of relationships between people and the village and the different ways that they might have encountered this man, and I found it an incredibly moving book as well. I thought it was really, really incredible. At number 3 is Chlorine by Jade Song. In Chlorine, we follow a young girl called Ren who is on the swimming team, and she is getting into competitive swimming. We see how she is starting to sort of feel controlled by the swimming coach in terms of how she, the training that she needs to do, and because of her age, she's going through adolescence, so there are changes to her body as well. Periods are discussed in the book. In a really interesting way actually, and a very realistic way, which I really appreciated. It's a queer book as well. We see Ren's sort of relationship with her best friend, and Ren sort of feels like she wants to take back control of her life and also of her body in terms of the changes that are happening to it naturally, but also the changes that are sort of being enforced on it through all this swimming that she is doing. I thought it was an incredible book, sort of a great coming of age. It is a little bit weird as well, and yeah, I loved it. I thought it was incredible. I love this cover. This might be my favourite cover of the year. At number 2, we have a classic. Classic at number 2 is The Well of Loneliness by Radcliffe Hall. So this was first published, I think, in 1928, and it was banned because it's about lesbians. So we are following Stephen, who, when her mother is expecting, her mother and father are expecting and hoping for a boy, who they're going to call Stephen. When Stephen is born, she is a girl, but they still call her Stephen. And then this is really about Stephen's life, her sort of different and quite difficult in different ways relationship with her mother and her father, her coming to understand her sexuality. It has a really fascinating exploration of not only that, but also gender identity. I love this. I thought Stephen was a really interesting character and not entirely likeable, actually, which is probably one of the reasons why I like her so much as a character, because I don't like characters that are wholly likeable. There are grey areas there. There was just so much I loved about this book. And I don't read a lot of classics at all. But I mean, you can see how much I've tabbed this up. I thought it was really, really incredible, one I will definitely be rereading. And at number 1, my favourite book of the year. And not only is this my favourite book that I read in 2024, I'd say this is a contender for an all-time favourite, and that is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk, which is translated from Polish by Antonia Lloyd-Jones. I loved everything about this book. So we're following our main character, Janina, who is in her 60s. She lives by herself in this like remote Polish village, and she is seen by other people who live in the village as being a little bit eccentric. I mean, partly I think she is overlooked by people purely because she is an older woman, and that sort of renders her invisible to a lot of people. Then the book centres around these deaths that start to take place. These men who are found sort of dead in somewhat unusual circumstances, and Janina thinks she understands what's going on. She believes in like astrology. So Janina thinks that she like knows what's going on, what might be causing these deaths. She believes in astrology, and she uses that to try to impose a meaning on life in general, but also the things that are happening in the village. And she tries to get people to listen to her, and no one is really listening to her because of who she is. I thought this was a really, really incredible book. I thought tonally it was just spot on, because we had like the murder mystery type element, and it's definitely not a conventional murder mystery, but you know I love a murder mystery, and there were definitely some traditional aspects that were retained within the book. I thought there was a balance of like a little bit of humour within there. I thought it looked at aspects of sort of identity and how people are perceived by others. So how Jadine is perceived as being this sort of quite eccentric character. And yeah, maybe there are some aspects of her, but no more than your average person probably. But I thought it was an incredibly moving book as well, in the way that it touched on grief and also friendship within the book, because there are some people that Janina does have like strong friendships with within the book, and I thought that was just so beautifully done. It was incredible. I thought it was really well plotted as well. Everything about this I loved. So good. So that is my favourite book of 2024. So thank you so much for watching. I think it's quite interesting looking at that list as a whole, because there's definitely some consistent themes on there. So I haven't heard that list. If you do have any recommendations for me that you think I would like, please let me know. And also please let me know what your favourite books were that you read in 2024. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Bye.